On December 12th, the U.S. Air Force and Lockheed Martin announced that they had completed the first successful end-to-end test of a complete prototype of the AGM-183A Air-Launched Rapid Response Weapon, or ARRW. The new milestone comes as the U.S. strives to catch up to China and Russia in what has turned into a dangerous arms race between the most powerful militaries in the world. According to a press release from the Air Force, the test took place on December 9th and involved a B-52H bomber from the 96th Test Wing releasing the prototype ARRW off the coast of Southern California. This is the first time an AGM-183A all-up round has been launched in live testing. The missile's unpowered hypersonic boost glide vehicle payload, which had a live warhead and traveled at speeds greater than Mach 5, was successfully released, according to the service, before striking a predetermined target area. This represents a significant milestone for a program whose first live-fire flight testing last year was hampered by several issues, raising concerns about its viability. The Air Force had already performed a series of live-fire ARRW AGM-183A tests. However, these were primarily focused on showing the weapon's rocket booster's capability. Hypersonic development. Russia became the first nation to use new hypersonic weapons in warfare with strikes, featuring Kinzhal air-launched ballistic missiles against 2 locations in Ukraine in March. Russia fielded the Kinzhal system in 2018, according to expert assessments, and the avant-garde hypersonic boost glide vehicle in 2019. The United States has at least 5 hypersonic weapons programs in the works across the Air Force, Army, and Navy, plus 4 programs underway at the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA. Although the United States is pursuing a conventional-only capability, China, which may have deployed its first hypersonic weapon in 2020, and Russia appear to be seeking nuclear or dual-capable hypersonic capabilities. Given this, members of Congress and defense officials have claimed that Washington has fallen behind Moscow and Beijing and therefore endorsed efforts to accelerate U.S. hypersonic weapons development so as to deploy this capability as soon as possible and catch up with and eventually surpass China and Russia. Hypersonic weapons are defined as traveling at speeds at least 5 times the speed of sound with greater maneuverability over unique altitudes. The Air Force has requested $162 million for the research and development of the Air-Launched Rapid Response Weapon (ARRW) system, one of the first U.S. hypersonic weapons scheduled to enter the field in fiscal year 2023, which is a $157 million decrease from the 2022 appropriation. The ARRW system completed its first successful booster flight test on May 14th, during which the booster ignited and burned for expected duration after separating from a B-52H bomber off the coast of California. According to an Air Force statement, the Air Force will conduct additional booster flight tests of the system in fiscal year 2022 and 4 all-up round tests in fiscal year 2023, before transitioning to an early operational capability also in 2023. Initial fielding and operational use will be on the B-52 aircraft and have a 15-year shelf life, the Air Force said. The Gambit missile. On July 18th, DARPA issued a special announcement regarding its new Gambit missile program and announced a Proposers' Day for companies to learn more about the effort and its goals. In the notice, DARPA included a description of the program and its objectives, as well as the anticipated timeline from deployment to flight testing. The goal of the Gambit program is to develop and demonstrate a novel rotary detonation engine (RDE) propulsion system, enabling a mass-producible, low-cost, long-range, highly supersonic weapon for air-to-ground attacks in an anti-access/area denial (A2AD) environment. The reference to the use of Gambit in an anti-access/area denial (A2AD) environment could refer to any place where American forces are fighting against a nearly equal opponent. But there is one such environment that has been the focus of several defense efforts in recent years, the more than 1,000-mile wide area denial bubble, stretching out from China's shores thanks to a growing array of anti-ship weapon systems. America's carrier-based fighters, the F-35C and F/A-18 Super Hornet, each have a combat radius of less than 650 miles, which would mean carriers would have to sail into danger to launch longer-range combat missions without ammunition. The United States obviously has the ability to use air-launched missiles at considerable ranges, but it's not as simple as mounting a massive missile under the Super Hornet's wing. Trimble points out, the size of these weapons matters a lot, which is why RDE engines could be a game-changer with their improved efficiency and reduced mass. But Gambit isn't the first new weapons program to use rotary detonation engine technology. According to the Air Force Research Lab, RDE technology could make high-velocity weapons much more affordable, which is of particular concern after a recent Department of Defense analysis that suggests the hypersonic Mach 5 weapons under development for the Air Force are as much could cost up to $106 million everyone. Glide Phase Interceptor. A hypersonic boost glide weapon is launched into the atmosphere to glide at hypersonic speeds before striking its target. The greatest chance to intercept the missile exists at this glide phase in its trajectory, just before it turns into its final high-speed drop. The glide phase interceptor intends to accomplish just that. The GPI could potentially be integrated with the hypersonic and ballistic tracking space sensor, a newly developed high-tech hypersonic weapons tracking satellite by the MDA. The idea is built on target detail networking and the requirement to create a continuous track on a quickly moving hypersonic missile, from launch to remote control to satellite missile tracking technology. As a component of the layered missile defense system used by the Missile Defense Agency, the interceptors would be launched from Navy Aegis ballistic missile defense destroyers and integrated into the Aegis weapons system. The U.S. has recently grown more concerned about the threat presented by Chinese and Russian hypersonic weapons, especially given that it lags far behind the two with its hypersonic weapons still in the development and testing stage. U.S. military leaders expressed grave alarm when China tested its Hypersonic Glide Vehicle, HGV, in July 2021. Before re-entering the atmosphere and striking the terrestrial target, the glide vehicle traveled around 24,800 miles, 39,911 kilometers, in space. The AGM-183A. The service's new AGM-183A air-launched rapid response weapon is expected to be the United States military's first hypersonic weapon to reach operational status. The exact speed of the AGM-183A isn't known, although the Lockheed Martin-designed weapon is said to be based on previous test vehicles built by DARPA that have an alleged maximum speed of Mach 20, or 15,000 miles per hour, 24,000 kilometers per hour. The successful ARRW test was conducted on Friday, December 9th, in a training range off the coast of California, according to a USAF statement released Monday, December 12th. According to the U.S. Air Force, the missile is designed to hold fixed, high-value, time-sensitive targets at risk in contested environments, meaning it will be used to target predetermined assets on the ground such as fixed missile sites, radar stations, air defense installations, infrastructure facilities, or even adversary headquarters buildings. The AGM-183A is what is known as a boost glide vehicle, which refers to warheads or projectiles that glide toward their targets after being lofted by a rocket booster. The ARRW is carried under the wing of an aircraft, such as the B-52H bomber that lofted it for this test flight. Before it is released, a solid rocket booster then ignites, lifting the missile to a specific altitude and speed before its payload fairings open and release the wedge-shaped boost glide vehicle inside. This capability, along with their extreme speeds, make this class of weapons highly difficult to detect, track, and defeat with current air defense systems. To that end, Department of Defense is also developing new classes of interceptors to help counter the growing hypersonic threat worldwide.